What to do when your family members are being brainwashed by a group? That's the topic at hand today. And the reason why it's at hand is I have a question from a lovely viewer struggling with 5 family members who seem to be brainwashed by a self-growth group. Let me throw the question at you. And you can pretend that my computer is like an iPad so that I appear more hip. I'm going to act like a caveman and actually hold my darn computer while I read the question. Here we go. So the question is, I have 5 family members who have recently started in the landmark education. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe not. And the question is, how do I speak with my family members who are speaking like drones, who are full of jargon with cult-like glazes over their eyes? I just kind of want to really get angry at them, but for now I'm avoiding them. What can I do? Love the question. It's an honest question. And first off, I do want to mention the landmark education that this viewer's family members are having an experience with, and she's having a challenging time with her family's experience with it. I have no experience with landmark education. I know people who have been through it. Some of them have walked away with gems. Others have been creeped out by it. But in the name of free speech, I don't want to hide the specifics of this viewer's question. So there's no JP personal indictment for or against landmark. With that said, this is tough. Putting myself into your shoes, my family members are brainwashed. They're just like drones regurgitating this jargon. And I'd be sitting there thinking and feeling, where are my family members? Yeah, your bodies are right here, but where's your mind? Where's your heart that I've grown to know, love, and become familiar with and attached to? So it feels like I've had my family members taken away from me by this group that requires, high fees to be a part of and, rigid beliefs to be a member of. So where's my family members? It would make me mad too. So with that said, I don't think there's a perfect way to deal with it because it's not a perfect situation. It's an imperfect situation, and the wise people would babble about how that the imperfection is perfect or the perfection of the imperfection, whatever they say, but we don't want to hear it when they say it. So my experience, first kind of jumping into the minds of your family members, like why would anybody kind of jump into a cult-like dogma? Whether it's good or bad, but this viewer's experience is that it's a cult-like dogma. I would guess what really appeals to your family, more than like the specific teachings or learnings, what's the right way to say it? I don't know. But probably what appeals to them more than the learned teachings is the sense of belonging they get by being a part of an organization. And yes, they buy into the organization with a heavy price tag. And yes, they have to mentally buy into the organization by adopting the beliefs. But my experience is that nobody leaves childhood without having some kind of deep inner void that just wants to belong. We all come out of childhood with a needing to belong void. I've never met anyone who's had that completely filled in by the time they leave childhood. And I would guess your family members are dancing with that. It's probably part of, if not largely, what motivates them to join this group. Add to that the intoxication of infatuation. I would guess actually what appeals to your family more than a sense of belonging they get is the infatuation they have with the fantasy of how much they can belong. In other words, when you join a new organization that basically says, you can be one of us, and we want you, you are valued, as long as you do this, this, and this, by the way, we feel so wanted. that appeals to our sense of belonging. So what it really does is it gives us hope. A fantasy, infatuation, not grounded in reality, but an infatuation-based hope that will have our insatiable need to belong finally met. So I would guess your family members are in a place of being infatuated with their hope of truly belonging. And I would guess they probably actually feel like, yeah, I do belong. But I would guess it's their hope that they will belong in a deeper way, a way that is probably not possible to be met through the outside world. But with that said, part of what then motivates a person to, start just mindlessly repeating the dogmas, and they adopt it, they speak it to you, is the more they can become redundant with the dogmas, the jargon, as you mentioned, that makes them feel more loyal. Let me repeat these beliefs because that makes me feel more loyal to the group. And when I feel more loyal to the group, I feel like I belong more to the group. And when I feel like I belong more to the group, it makes me feel like I'll always belong to the group. I think that always belong to the group is part of the infatuation. So thus, the family member seems to disappear in this new soldier of loyalty who's on a mission to belong appears in front of you. That's maybe the bad news. The good news is, in my opinion, it's all infatuation. They're intoxicated. There's no real reality to this sense of belonging, or at least the deep hope of it. So, like all infatuation, there's a sense of bliss about it. I mean, you can't talk sense into someone who's infatuated, be it with a relationship or a new idea, new career they're going after, a new religion, a new group. You can't talk sense to someone who's infatuated, because infatuation, it's an emotional and biochemical experience, not a logical experience. That's why we can't rationally communicate with those who are infatuated. Thus, in this viewer's position, it makes you frustrated because you can't talk sense into someone who's not acting from a logical, sense-oriented point of view. So, my babble was meant to say the good news is infatuation's always temporary. Think of your relationships. You get in one, your partner can do no wrong, they're Mr. or Mrs. Perfect, they're amazing. And you just feel euphoric. That's the key with infatuation. You feel euphoric. But remember your relationships. That evaporates. Just like you can go out, get drunk, feel the buzz of alcohol, you're intoxicated. That will evaporate. It's only temporary. With infatuation and relationships with another person romantically, in my experience with groups, tends to last between 3 months and a year. 2 years maximum. I don't know, that's a long time. But so the good news is, it's likely a phase of infatuation that the family members are going through. Nothing you can do, in my opinion, can rush that. It's kind of like no matter how loud the farmer screams at a seed, the seed will germinate in its time, not the farmer's time. No matter how loud the farmer yells, how angry the farmer gets, the seed will germinate in its time. Your family members' intoxication of infatuation will evaporate in their time, not yours. Frustrating for you? Yes. If you can accept it, it just means you drive yourself nuts slightly less. So in my experience with people with kind of cult-like groups, 90% of the time, they will emerge on the other side. 10% of people kind of get stuck to it for life. But 90% of the time, so odds are tremendously in favor that your family members will emerge on the other side. But that's something they need to do for themselves. You can't walk that walk for them. You can't rush it along. You can't make the seed germinate quicker. It needs to be done in their time. And the other part of the good news is when they emerge on the other side, if they do, they'll likely be wiser. Yes, they'll have had a time of losing themselves in order to become loyal to the organization. Let me eliminate the aspects of me that don't fit in this organization so that I can have a deeper sense of connection and belonging and be what the organization requires me to be. So they lose themselves big time. But emerging on the other side, they'll reclaim themselves and probably be wiser for it, probably actually have some kind of learning and growth that's happened along the way. They'll have lost themselves in the phase that they're in the organization. They seem one-dimensional to you. Like, what happened in the rest of you? You're one-dimensional. They'll likely emerge more multi-dimensional than you knew them before. So they've lost themselves, which is necessary for them to find themselves. It's part of their journey. And I would guess the best you can do in your, quite honestly, helpless position is accept them for who they are. And part of who they are right now is, in part, they're the mentality of a lonely child who's very ambitiously exercising hope for connection and belonging. That's part of who they are, which means part of who they are is someone who needs to go into this organization and have their experience. Doesn't meet your values, but it's part of who they are for now. Could be forever, hopefully not, probably not, but it's part of who they are. So if you can accept them for who they are, I would guess that's the best you can do. Probably the best thing you can do for your peace of mind. If you try to resist your family members, tell them how ridiculous this organization and the fees, rituals, the brainwashing, they'll likely become defiant to you, which will drive them deeper into their loyalty with this organization, which will likely prolong the time where they need to be a one-dimensional, super loyal person to this organization because it's postured out of defiance to you. So I'd invite you to be very sensitive to give your family members very little to become defiant against. So with that said, it ain't easy being you. It's a tough time. You having your experience of your family members being, sounds like brainwashed through the Landmark organization. So I'll be wishing you well, and certainly lots of self-acceptance of your helplessness about your family members and other person acceptance of your family members, which also means your frustration and your anger, it's okay. It's there to be accepted as well. So with that said, a way I'd like to brainwash everybody is by asking/demanding in a very pleasant way for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would appreciate it. And I'll be looking forward to talking with you guys next time.